right, well, big event going to be taking place right here in our backyard in Hollywood, Florida, as the RNC comes down for what's a regular style meeting. But of course, we'll check in with the RPOF chairman here and also Representative Blaise Ingoglia from, we're up in Hernando, right?
Hernando County, yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank goodness that some of my brain cells are still firing. So, what do you think? The attention again on Florida because of this committee meeting that'll take place, or rather, this RNC meeting that will take place in Hollywood. What's to be expected? I mean, a whole lot of nothing. They really can't do much.
No, they can't do much. And obviously, the emphasis on Florida because this is where the meeting just happens to be.
Right.
The meeting could have been, in Phoenix, it could have been in California, and all of the state chairmen, when we all get together, along with the rest of the party leaders, obviously the big talk is going to be about the convention and delegates and the process. But really, I don't expect anything to be changed at this meeting. I wouldn't expect any rules to be changed. In fact, I think that would be a bad idea.
No, they can't change them. They can only be changed at the convention. They're just going to make recommendations, I guess.
Right. Well, there's two sets of rules. You have the Rules Committee, and then you have the Convention Rules Committee. But I don't expect any changes to be done to either.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you about, I've been getting calls and emails, people calling into the show saying that they were Trump supporters and that they were sort of pushed out of delegate positions for Cruz supporters I heard in Broward County and I heard in Palm Beach County. Have you been hearing any of this?
I have heard some people say that, but what I would tell you is that I don't think those are reflective and accurate, that any supporters from any candidate are being pushed out. The caucus procedure to pick the delegates is pretty simple, and it's been around for a while. And the applications to be delegates, you have a lot of longtime volunteers. People have been volunteering for the party for 5, 10, 20 years.
Right.
You have a party activist. You have members of the state executive committee. And when it comes time for a convention, very often those are the people who get the delegate spots. Now, if you have been a long-time supporter of the party and a volunteer, and if you happen to be an applicant to become a delegate to the convention, and you were a Trump supporter, because I have heard some of the Trump supporters say that they weren't picked, they were actually chosen. So when I look at the people who were chosen already, there's just a myriad of people. There are a bunch of people who supported a bunch of different candidates during the primary, but they all have one thing in common, is that they put the party first. And that these are people who care deeply about the Republican Party of Florida, and they have been working, knocking on doors, making phone calls, if not years, but decades.
Yeah. Well, look, I just wanted to be fair because we're seeing so much is being exposed right now in terms of how little the American public knows about the process and how little they like the process now that they know about it. I mean, it's always sort of been in the minds of the under-informed, and I blame schools. We don't teach civics. They don't understand this. Newspapers and people in the media like me don't go over this enough. We wait until there's some sort of crisis, a contested convention, to even explain the process, and just wait. If it's when it gets down to it, we've been through the electoral college at the actual presidential election. People don't understand these things, and that frustrates them and sort of infuriates them. One would think we might go back to a more simple system, every state, but apparently that's not in the cards right now.
Well, here's a couple of things that I would say to that. The first thing that I would say is that Florida, we have a pretty simple system here in the state of Florida. We have 99 delegates. We are winner take all, and we are bound by 3 ballots. Now, that is more than almost every other state. A lot of states are only bound for 1. A lot of states are bound for 2. But Florida, we are the only state that are bound for 3. And as far as some of the rules, the different rules, look, Joyce, I agree with you that there should be more transparency and people should learn more about rules. But I will tell you that I am a staunch supporter of each individual party making up their own selection process and their primary process. The same way as a state representative, I do not want the federal government meddling in states' affairs. I do not want the RNC meddling in the RPOF's affairs. I do not want the RNC telling us how we should conduct our primary. Now, having said that, I would also say that I do not agree with some of these states that have conventions. I think that that does disenfranchise the voters. I would rather see a primary or a caucus process. So I do agree with the people who say that they have a problem with the convention process. But overall in all, I agree with you that there should be more transparency, and that's why we at the Florida Party, and me as chairman, I've been on your show numerous times talking about this stuff. I want everybody to know, everyone to know who's willing to listen, how the process works.
Do you think that there's now we're just talking theory. Do you think that there's a risk for the party, and it's not just the Republican Party, the Democrats are up against the same thing. Do you think there's a risk of disenfranchising the public about voting? I mean, you can almost, I don't believe that there'll be a riot or any of that very extreme stuff. But I do believe that there are people in the Republican Party who have already said out loud, whoever gets the most votes should get the nomination. Now, we all agree that that's not the way this works. Whoever gets the most delegates will get the nomination. But, at what point do you cut it off? If Donald Trump were to get to Cleveland with 1,200 delegates, would they really still, make it hard for him to win? I just, that's what they're doing. And whether you like him or not, I don't like that.
Well, to your original point, I would say this, is that whenever, and this happens, and to put this in context, if people think about their local elections, they can really grasp their head around what I'm about to say, is that whenever there is a really heated primary where people are passionate, you are always going to come to the point after the election, after the primary, after a nominee is chosen, whether it is for city council, whether it is county commission, whether it's for sheriff, governor, or the president of the United States, you are always going to have a certain portion of the electorate are going to feel like they are disenfranchised because their person didn't win. And I totally get that. Now, granted, during this election season for president, it's a little bit more under the microscope because it has been a little bit more heated. It has been a little bit more contentious. So what I would just tell everybody is this is not unlike some of the things that we have seen before. Now we're headed towards the first contested convention, most likely, and we haven't seen one since 1976. So I understand in that respect it is different. But our job is to make sure that we get behind the Republican nominee, no matter who it is, because our job is to come together after the convention and work hard to get that person. Because our enemy is not other Republicans. Our enemy is the Hillary Clinton and the Bernie Sanders of the world who want to turn this country into something that it's not supposed to be. Our enemy is people and advocates of big government that are fostering an environment where we will have less prosperous nation in the future than where we are now.
Well, I hope you're right. I have a tough time imagining, some of these guys ever coming together. I mean, this has been very bitter.
Hey, look, Joyce, I've never said it was going to be easy.
Right.
What I'm telling everybody, it's going to be worth it when we come together.
No, I hope you're right. I am a Republican for the second time, and I only lasted 30 days the last time, so I've already beat that record. But I'm struggling. I got to tell you, I'm struggling. At least you don't have super delegates. That
no, and that is another great point, Joyce. Let's talk about that for a minute. I know we keep on talking about people and the quote unquote establishment getting involved in these primaries. We are a stark contrast to what the Democrats are going through. Hillary Clinton only has roughly, I want to say, a 230 delegate lead in terms of allocated delegates through the primary process on the Democrat side. But she has a huge lead because of superdelegates. These people have an inordinate amount of power.
Yeah.
Where we allow the power in the grassroots. In our system, they have it almost entirely in the establishment and the consulting class and the people who have been ruining this nation for the past 20 years.
Yeah, well, look, like I said, that I find shameful, but I'm really just a little bit nervous about the outcome here. I'll be at the convention. I wouldn't miss this for the world, because I think that it's going to be riotous. I want to know who makes the nominating speech. That's going to be tough for some of these guys. But anyway, thank you so much for spending some time, Representative Blaise Ingoglia. He's also the RPOF chairman now. That's a lot to do there.
I do. Have a great day, Joyce.
All right. Very well.